now, dear viewers, to part 51 in our continued study of chapter 16 of Revelation. Frederick Douglass. Frederick was an American slave who escaped from slavery and became a leader of the campaign to end slavery. Rebel City is a magazine which is produced in Britain. Their email is rebelcitylondon@gmail.com. In issue number 12 and page 9, the magazine quotes Frederick Douglass as saying in 1852, "It is not light that is needed but fire. It is not the gentle shower but thunder. We need the storm, the whirlwind and the earthquake." He was calling for a political earthquake to abolish slavery in America. His words could be straight out of Revelation. This language is exciting, dramatic and powerful, whereas a lot of language is dull, just like life itself. The language of the book of Revelation is powerful and colourful. Part 5 of the sevenfold. The great city was split into 3 parts. The great city is always Rome. The city of Rome stands for the whole Roman Empire, and the Middle East was once part of the Roman Empire, but it was taken over by the Arabs nearly 1400 years ago. Since then, all reference to the Roman Empire in Revelation are confined to Europe. That is also the case in our day. Europe will be divided into 3 parts. Again, of course, it's the former Roman Empire. The area of the former Roman Empire, but then of course it also comes up to our own day and to the Roman Empire that's being formed in the area of the former Roman Empire. It divided into 3 parts. After the coming of Christ, the European Union now covers the great part of Europe, so it will have to be included in the threefold division. There are 3 major religions in Europe. They are Catholic, Protestant and Greek Orthodox. Portugal, Spain, Italy, France and Poland are Catholic countries. Denmark, Norway, Sweden and Finland are Protestant countries. Greece, Serbia, Romania and Bulgaria are Greek Orthodox countries. These 3 groupings may well form alliances between themselves. The purpose of these alliances would be how to deal with the king in Jerusalem. That would be the overwhelming question then facing all countries. They will know that this figure in Jerusalem claims to be Jesus and claims to be King of Israel, but also claims to be King of the world. He will be demanding that they give up all their authority to him. The governments of the world will have to decide whether to agree or to disagree. The response of Protestant countries might be very different to the response of Catholic countries, and the response of Muslim countries may be different again. A puzzle. The great earthquake which was mentioned previously would have to sweep away the whole political class. How then do we find them here again now in deciding how to respond to Jesus? Because like other parts of the Revelation, it shows the end result first and then goes back to tell us what leads up to that end result. The end result will be the earthquake that will sweep them from power, but then it goes back to tell us exactly the steps that will cause their removal from power. Part 6 of the sevenfold. The cities of the nations fell. The Catholic Jerusalem says the cities of the world collapsed. It is clear from this that God does not like cities. This will be a literal happening, a literal falling of the cities. God does not like cities very much. There will be cities in the kingdom. Jesus told his disciples that some will be mayors of 10 cities, some of 5 and some of 2 in the kingdom. However, the overall picture of the kingdom is of land, of fields, of trees. Jesus told the good thief, "You will be with me in paradise." The word paradise means par, garden. that was the description Jesus gave of the kingdom. He meant that when Jesus gets to paradise, which will be in the kingdom, that the good thief will be with him. But the good thief will wake up and thinking that was the same day as he died. That's why he said today will be in paradise. For the good thief it will be like the same day, but the good thief is still in the grave. But we can take it for certain he will have his place in the kingdom. The prophet Micah wrote, "They shall sit every man under his vine and under his fig tree, and none shall make them afraid." That's the beautiful picture of the kingdom. It's not going to be a kingdom of war, of military conquest, of destruction, of bombs. No, it's not. Yes, there will be war to establish it, possibly for 70 years, but we can take it then the whole picture of war will vanish like the snows of yesteryear.
Yeah.
The prophet Isaiah wrote, "Then judgment shall dwell in the wilderness, and righteousness remain in the fruitful field."
Lovely.
From the Jewish Korean Bible. The promise to Abraham was, the Lord said to Abram, "Raise up your eyes and look from where you are to the north and south and to the east and west. I will give all the land that you see to you personally and to your offspring forever." That's from the Jewish Tanakh Bible. So Abram was called Abram before his name was changed by God to Abraham. This promise gave the land of Israel to Abraham and his offspring as an eternal possession for all time. So that means that the great patriarch will walk the land of Israel again. He will walk around Jerusalem and Bethlehem, and he will walk around Hebron, where he lies buried with his wife and his son Isaac, and they will all be back very much alive in the land of Israel. And the Jewish people are the offspring of Abraham. They will inherit it forever. So it has been given as an eternal covenant, eternal estate to the Jewish people. They will actually be the citizens of the land of Israel then. So at the resurrection, it is because of the promise to Abraham that Israel is known as the promised land. The promise mentions only land. There is no mention of towns and cities. Abraham will inherit the whole state of Israel, and this will of course include towns, cities and land. But the fact that only land is mentioned in the promise shows it is what will really count. Of course, the great city of Jerusalem will certainly be very much a city, a real city, a splendid city, but the overall picture is land. Eretz Israel, this is a name which is frequently used today to refer to Israel. It is Hebrew and means the land of Israel. Again, not land and cities, but land. Farming people are close to nature in a way that it is difficult for city people to be here. I know city dwellers might say, "Oh, this guy is no time for us at all."
No.
But I'm just speaking from experience. I grew up, I am a man of the land myself. My forefathers going back for generations were farmers. We were actually 3.5 miles even from the nearest village where I grew up.
Wow.
And I honestly think that seeing the cows, the sheep, the horses grazing, the hens wandering around the farmyard, I think it's the most natural way of all.
It's beautiful.
And I think that it would be the real most common way for people all over the world to live in the kingdom.
Oh, it would be so beautiful.
That big cities, I honestly think, can never offer that same closeness to nature.
No, they absolutely can't.
So, now part 7 of the seventh bowl. The seventh bowl is quite long. Great Babylon was remembered before God to give her the cup of the wine of the fierceness of his wrath. And the Catholic Jerusalem says, Babylon the Great was not forgotten. God made her drink the full wine cup of his anger. Here Jesus will deal with Babylon the Great. So again, after coming, take us right up to the kingdom and Armageddon. Here again we're taken back to Babylon the Great. There's no getting away from it.
No.
God almost seems obsessed with it. If God could be obsessed with and Jesus, so to them it's a dreadful thing.
Yeah, it must be though, mustn't it?
There's no getting
If
away
you're
from it.
totally pure, Babylon must be like...
It must be just something awful.
Awful.
Because if it was not,
Why would it?
make such a huge issue out of it?
Because it is absolutely awful.
It is awful, yes. And unfortunately, it's the Catholic Church. Jesus was punished for all its wrongdoings. Babylon is the greatest, dealt with much more detail, in much greater detail in the next chapter. And that's chapter 17, so we will leave it to go into the details. Part 8 of the Seven Board. Every island fled away, and the mountains were not found. The Catholic Jerusalem says every island vanished, and the mountains disappeared. A real island is separated by water from the countries around it. Islands here stand for the greatest separation of all, separation from God. Because islands, my own country, the Emerald Isle, Ireland, Cyprus, the British Isles, there's no way that islands are just going to vanish. I mean, that it wouldn't make neither sense nor meaning. But what will vanish is what represents separation, and above all, the whole of mankind separated from God. All false religions separate their members from God. Every island vanish means that the false religions will vanish. The one true religion will fill the whole world. No part of the world will feel isolated, since every community will be directly connected to Jerusalem by day and by night. The mountains disappeared. The prophet Daniel says that the kingdom itself will be like a huge mountain covering the whole earth. And mountains now, at this present time, stand for strong countries with a lot of political influence, such as America, France and Germany. Their influence will be entirely taken away and given to the saints, so that in that sense the mountains won't be found. That will be the disappearing of the mountains. Tiny Malta may well have as much influence as America in the kingdom. So the prophet Daniel wrote, the kingdom and the dominion and the greatness of the kingdoms under the whole heaven shall be given to the people of the holy ones of the Most High, whose kingdom is an everlasting kingdom, and all dominions shall serve and obey him. That's from the Jewish Koran Bible. All dominions will serve and obey Jesus and the saints. These dominions will be all nations on earth, and Jesus will not wipe the Isle of Man and the Isle of Wight off the face of the earth. That would, how would that make any kind of sense? But he will not flatten the Mount Everest either, or Mount Snowdon. To destroy beautiful islands and mountains would be nothing short of an act of vandalism, which Jesus will certainly not carry out.
Thank you. Thank you, Neil. We'll finish chapter 16 in part 52.
Okay.
Is it 52 or 51?
Yeah, 52.
Lovely.